The day was December 23rd, 2022. I was wandering through YouTube because I had some free time. I seen a video with a really good thumbnail, a cool looking character, and well, okay. Needless to say, I clicked on the video and began to watch. In seconds, I was greeted by a robotic voice, and I immediately was like, hell no. It just feels a little weird, a little off, I don't know, just not for me. I looked down and 2 hours had passed. What the hell happened? Needless to say, I think it's gotta be the power of storytelling. Time just moves faster. You see, most of us just convince ourselves that we don't have time. Not enough time to read, not enough time to go out. We are all busy and are experts about convincing ourselves just how busy we are. Well, until something takes that time right from under you. Needless to say, I kept watching. I watched and I watched manhwa recap after manhwa recap, completely dissolving into this weird sect of an upcoming YouTube trend. And to be honest, it was a really cool thing to see. So many people jumped into this weird manhwa boom on YouTube. And I mean, it makes sense. If a video is an hour long and most people finish it in the same way I did, time traveling essentially by a story, and most people are gonna click on the thumbnail because thumbnail material, yeah. Of course, those videos do really well. And before some of you guys say it, I think this is actually really good for the manhwa community, publishers and all. This is something that the gaming industry had to pick up a while back. You see, I wasn't the kind of person to read manhwa, manga, or novels. Nothing like that. Why? I just told myself I didn't have the time. And I have plenty of things that I already like. I can barely keep up with those. Simply put, I was not a manhwa customer, but this made me one. Even put more simply, the audience that is watching these videos aren't necessarily the people that will buy your product. But if you continue delivering interest, people will eventually be intrigued enough to get to the next chapter, therefore acting as an amazing convergence to non-customer to customer. Not to mention the manhwa video people can't keep up with the absolute absurd amount of chapters constantly being released weekly, inevitably pushing people to go read the newest chapter if they're left off on a juicy enough cliffhanger, which they always are. This not only helps the manhwa video recap maker, making it easier to make a part 2, but also incentivizes the viewer to go to find the manhwa itself and catch up on chapters. It's just a system that seems to really work. But why am I talking about all this? Well, it's kind of been 5 months since then, and I've read so much manhwa. It's not even funny. You see, you start out being enthralled by the all-out content battle strategy of waifus and thumbnails, as well as main characters becoming OP. Coupling that with a variety of every kind of flavor of story you could possibly want, accompanied all by amazing artwork with incredible color. You'll soon find yourself in a community that feels like you've always been there for years. But then something interesting happened. Maybe it's a video being left off on such a cliffhanger. Maybe it's a story that just stays with you months after having watched it, to where when you see a video pop up on your feed that reminds you of it, you think, oh, it's been like 3 months since I've seen that video. I wonder if it's got new chapters. Let me check in. And also, maybe after asking these recap channels to get their shit together to actually keep their word on us getting to a comment goal or a like goal, that they actually make a fucking part 2 in a fast time period in some way. It's not 7 months later, my guy. Okay, whatever the case may be. You jump on and start reading, and you also find out that reading manhwa is actually extremely calming, just nice. You can choose to go at your speed, you can devour 2 chapters, then chill. You won't, though. It doesn't happen, but you can. Picking and choosing when to jump back into the fun, and before long, those channels that uploaded 2-hour-long videos, you only watch the first 10 minutes, using them as a means to see if the story is interesting enough or has potential enough for you to go read. And don't get me wrong, I don't think these channels should make smaller videos. That's how I got into it, is watching these 2-hour extravaganzas that I couldn't help but watch. But I think it's an inevitability that that's the course that you take. Nevertheless, you're pulled into this wonderful community. So again, what does this have to do with this video? Well, the truth is, I was starved for a specific type of content. I loved the videos that I watched with even the robotic voices and all, but after 5 months of experiencing such wonderful stories and actually having read them all, I desperately wanted to tell you about a few that took my breath right away, how they made me feel, what they did that was so special and iconically unique, and what you can expect to experience when you read these stories. I want to tell you the journey I went on when discovering and unraveling the stories I've come to love so much. That's something that I found it hard to find mind in the Manhwa recap scene. They all tell you the overall story, but not how the story is different and, in a lot of ways, extremely unique. So with that extremely long introduction out of the way, let me tell you about a story of how a mouse raised lions. Our story begins with an older brother working tirelessly at a dead-end job just to support his younger brother so that he can go to school. His older brother practically raising his younger brother. But then one fateful day, it happens. The world shifts and gates start appearing all over the world. With these gates, of course, come monsters. But soon after the gates arrive, people start to awakening to classes, skills, and abilities, all determined by rank F to S. And wouldn't you know it, the youngest brother went on a school trip, acquires rank S, which is extraordinarily rare. While calamity and destruction reign through the upcoming months, we see that the main character, the oldest brother, can't seem to awaken. He wants to support his younger brother, but ultimately can't. He can't protect him, he can't go into the dungeons, and he can't even put up a scrap of a fight against this new world. Needless to say, the oldest brother that took care of his youngest tries tirelessly to awaken, making horrible deals with terrible people to force himself to awaken, only to find out that he's a measly F rank class with the Nurturer title, which gives him the ability that if somebody dies in his party or affected by his keyword, he gets their powers and times it by 2, which is pretty good, but not good when your allies aren't dying. Meanwhile, his youngest brother is just killing it. He is an S rank hunter, only 6th in the country, kind of rare, unlocking black flames that can just rend enemies into ashes. As the years go on, the divide between the two just increase more and more. The older brother actually starting his own guild and pushing the other brother away a lot. The oldest brother, the main character, feels more and more despair, not being able to support his youngest and also just being inadequate in every conceivable way. Now, in the present day, he is covered in scars, but still going into dungeons just to make ends meet. Unfortunately, because of his skill being the sole survivor in so many parties that have died. Reason why is because of his innate skill, the Nurturer skill. When one of your party members that's affected by you dies, you subsume their power and get a boost. But that only lasts for a short time. And one fateful day, while dungeon diving with his terrible teammates, he gets the message, boop, your skill has been activated. He goes to try to save what's left of his teammates, only to find them all dead. And before them lies this gigantic, fierce dragon that is beyond powerful. S rank. Tries to hang in there, but ultimately ends up falling to the dragon, only to be saved by his youngest S-rank brother. But even his S-rank brother, who is one of the strongest in the country, still fall to this behemoth of a dragon. And as the youngest brother lays there dying, he tells his brother sorry, and that everything that he did, how much he pushed him away, was all to keep him safe. And as his brother falls dead, his brother subsumes all of his power, timesing it by 2. This gives him the edge he needs to defeat the dragon. But whilst he is ripping apart the dragon, another aspect of his skill is that he sees the memories of those who have given him his power, seeing flashbacks of the pain and trials his brother had to go through, seeing all the violence that comes with being an S-ranker, people constantly hunting you, betraying you, poisoning you, trying to kill you. And we also see how much the youngest brother loved and adored his older brother. Because he took care of him since he was a kid and basically raised him, he looked at him like he was the center of his world. So the idea that his brother, the thing that he cares most, would keep delving into the dungeons, keep going in harm's way, crushed the younger brother. And as a vie to protect him, he pushed him away and he tried to ostracize him as much as possible. This didn't really work. Everything went terrible. No one won. But anyways, after the oldest brother, the main character, slaughters the dragon, he gets an amazing achievement, giving him the skill and title Dragon Slayer, and a special item, a wish. Covered in tears, the oldest brother pleads to the glimmering light, take me to a time when my brother was alive. And boom, just like that, we are set 5 years back in the past, at that sweet spot right where the brothers were about to completely go separate ways. At this point, the youngest brother is an established S-rank hunter who is going out and killing it, and the main character is still, well, a not so good hunter who can barely make it. But he hasn't made any of the bad deals with the horrible loan sharks that did horrible things to get him to evolve, or awaken, sorry. The main character wastes no time jumping into his brother's arms in tears, saying how sorry he is and how much he understands why he feels the way he does, saying he'll never go into the dungeons again and he won't make trouble for him anymore. Almost immediately, the cold and reserved youngest brother ends up melting into putty, both overwhelmingly happy and sit down for some dinner. While sitting down, the main character finally opens up his skill sheet to see what's new. To his sorrow, he still sees that he's a filthy F rank, but he also sees that he has a new title along with Nurturer, he has the title of Dragon Slayer. With Dragon Slayer comes a plethora of skills, mostly resistances. Resistance to poison, resistance to curses, and the most important, resistance to fear. These are all legendary stats, which makes him fundamentally immune to all of these things. Please keep track of the fact that he no longer feels fear, being so important to this story. Oh, also, Dragon Slayer's there, so he has an amplified damage against lizard-like enemies. So, go team. And like I said, he also got a massive buff to his innate skill, his innate title, Nurturer. Now, he still has the skill Vengeance, which essentially allows him, basically subsumes their power and times it by 2, but it's only for a short time. Well, that is now brought up to you gain a lot of their power, and it's with you for not just 10 minutes, but days. But along with that, he has 3 new skills. The most important of the new skills is My Kid is the Best, a max rarity skill. Essentially what this skill does is it increases the growth rate of people affected by the keyword. That keyword being I love you. So, say I love you to someone, they basically get a tremendous growth rate for 3 days straight. The second skill he acquires is My Kid is Great, which is an SS rank skill. Simply put, if you say the keyword I love you in front of a minimum of 5 intelligent beings, they get a tremendous boost in power, and this is 10x if more people witness it. They're all legendary skills, but none of them are offensive. And he's even more disheartened when he finally finds out that the keyword is I love you, which needless to say makes him a big old creep if he's saying that to grown-ass women and men. And most S-rank hunters are grown-ass women and men. As he proceeds to slam his head many times into the table, his brother gets confused. The reason why is because he doesn't think his brother has awoken yet. Oh, and I didn't mention his last and third new skill, Promising Sprout. What this does, it allows you to look at other people and determine what their stats are. Are they A rank, E rank, or whatever? How much potential do they have? What are their skills? Blah, blah, blah. If you couldn't put it together, the main character has become the absolute amazing, legendary trainer, which to him is kind of a mixed bag, but he ends up making the best of it. After settling things with his brother, we get the sense that his younger brother is extraordinarily kind and holds the main character in such high regard that it almost becomes toxic. The youngest brother wants the main character to stay in his penthouse and like never leave because then he'll never be hurt and he can always protect him, and we're getting stalker crazy. Okay, not great. Simply put, the main character says, fuck that, and immediately starts making a deal with his younger brother that if he can find someone that is strong enough to protect him in S rank, the only tier that his brother would allow protecting his greatest treasure, if he would accept that. And his youngest brother agrees begrudgingly and also thinks that it's an impossible feat. How can you find someone who's an S rank who's willing to protect a F rank? But with the main character's understanding of the past, he knows that there are some special characters and some really, really big players, i.e. S rankers, about to come into being. One of them happens to be called the Ice Witch. In the past, the Ice Witch was known for being extremely cold and emotionally numb, hence the term Ice Witch. Yeah, a little obvious on the nose, all right? So the main character sets off to go find this said S ranker, accompanied by a brute of an A ranker assigned to be his bodyguard. The main character also noticed that every character has a potential meter, so they can go from anywhere from A to S, from B to S depending on the state in which they awaken, as well as how much time and effort they put into growing, which is awesome, because right now the world just thinks if you're A, you're A, if you're B, you're B, and not realizes that you can actually push past your rank. The main character goes to the first place where the Ice Witch actually awakens, but after perusing through those streets with his bodyguard, he ends up seeing this young girl bolt out of a store. He hears the same name as the Ice Witch, so he follows her. After catching up to her and calling out to her, she stops dead in the street and looks back at him, only for a car moments later to almost impact on her. Thankfully enough, the main character jumps and saves her and knocks her out of the way, asking her if he can have a moment of her time. After having a warm meal, we find out that her uncle is massively mistreating her, taking all the funds that her parents left behind and just overall being ruthless and evil, not even giving her a fresh pair of shoes. The main character then asks her if she's willing to be his bodyguard if he awakens her, which he knows he can do. She doesn't really believe him, but holds out hope that this might be a future where she actually has some control. And really quick, it is so hard not to love and adore the main character at this point. We have a moment where he encounters the uncle and just is perfectly cunning, goofy, clever, reminds you of that family member who always made you laugh, always had your back, and was way too clever for their own good. He's cheeky, he's goofy, he's playful, and just so lovable. After humiliating the uncle and standing up for the young girl, boom, his bodyguard quickly rushes into the room and tells him that there's a calamity happening right now. A gate has opened and a beast is here. Whilst this monster starts to terrorize the streets, the girl and her uncle start to run away with the terrified crowd, only for the young girl to stumble on her terrible shoes and face plants, looking up and seeing her uncle leave her behind. She sees the monster wind up to hit her, she closes her eyes, but boom, the main character pops in and shields her, picking her up, grabbing her hand, and bolting. The young girl looks at him grabbing her hand, sprinting away, and sees her savior. The main character gets her to safety, but then goes back because despite the main character having such a horrible life the last 5 years, he's still a certifiable hunter and also feels no fear, which is going to keep coming back, by the way. The main character quickly hurries to the A-ranker's aid, the bodyguard that was protecting him, supporting him the best he can. The main character's plan doesn't quite go so well, and he ends up getting grabbed by the monster and hoisted up by his leg, only to be saved by the girl he told to wait. As they try to sprint away, the monster catches up with them. At the very last minute, they grab hands, and the main character awakens the girl, and now the world has another S ranker. And despite her being a newly awakened, she is still an S rank, flying into the air as well as summoning forth ice spears and possessing monstrous strength. She shatters, bashes, and annihilates the black tendril wispy dead, Gano. Bye-bye. And as the main character looks up with glee at the newly awakened S-rank Ice Witch, she is quickly made to look weak by his S-rank brother who has a lot more experience and just wipes the floor with a ton of firepower. Despite the main character being amazed by his youngest brother's power, the youngest brother looks at him with a grim expression, shaking him back and forth, asking him how could he be so reckless, how is he here, why didn't he evacuate, but the main character assures his youngest brother that it's okay. He now has an S-rank who is keeping him safe. He proceeds to talk himself up and his amazing ability to find an S-rank, his youngest brother standing there shocked that he was actually able to pull it off. And at this point, we should really talk about just how freakishly weird the main character's youngest brother is. He's super clingy, he's weird, and it's a lot, but it's also funny as hell. And the reason why the main character thinks that his brother has had such a massive change is because of his other perk that I didn't mention to you. I'm so sorry, I'm bad at this. The main character also has the ability of anyone who's affected by his keyword, i.e. I love you, which he said to his brother, they start to basically favor the main character. They start to see him in a positive light, almost as a nurturer. So if he says that to people, they automatically start to see him in a positive maternal kind of way, I guess. So the main character's theory is that his youngest brother loved him, so when he came back in the past and got this new skill, it just made him love him and be possessive of him even more. Hence why his brother is a little bit of a freak, a little bit of a weird freako. And because the youngest brother is so protective, he is just worried of seeing this high-powered, newly brought into the world S-rank, because S-ranks are basically superhuman gods that have a freakish strength, emit a crazy amount of power, and ultimately are just walking sharp knives with no possible handle. After a heated discussion of what to do, the main character makes a good case for him setting out and doing what he said he's going to do, and he's not going to abandon this girl. The main character helps her put back on her tattered shoes and says that he's going to help her get new ones. She gets a little flustered by this, which is hella cute, but this cuteness is immediately cut short as she swings to save the main character from a fly and almost beheads him because S-ranks are built different. The main character is relatively unfazed and continues to go tie her shoe. At this point, we start to see flashbacks of why the main character might have gotten the nurturer title. It may not be powerful, but it's true to his character. He always cared for his youngest brother, and eventually we see to the extent of which he had to, which is painful and sad, but let's not get to that just yet. And as they share this Cinderella moment, they are interrupted by their monstrous, fucking disgusting pig freak man, hate him, uncle, who of course tries to swindle the main character to say that this girl is young, she's still my responsibility, and she is still an S-rank person that I can leech off of and extract as much wealth from. Simply put, the main character big brains the hell out of him, has been recording him this whole time as he spit out a bunch of venom, and the main girl is having none of this and puts all of this to rest immediately, showing a massive show of strength, destroying the ever-living hell out of this umbrella, acting as if it's a paperclip, also giving off an extraordinarily murderous intent and a lot of fear, which the main character feels nothing of. Needless to say, the uncle shits his pants and runs away, with the girl choosing the main character as her sponsor, which gives him responsibility as her parental figure until she reaches 18. After a day of rest, the youngest brother barges into the room, demanding that the main character gives him the dangerous poison bombs that he acquired when going shopping. By the by, that was a whole arc. He got some dope-ass earrings. They look cute. Anyways, moving on. The youngest brother gets weird and protective again, and they set off downstairs to check on the Ice Witch and see her progression. Needless to say, she's making mincemeat out of their training arena because she is just going to town. Having incredible magic and ice abilities, she's wrecking shop. After seeing her incredible feats of strength and almost killing the main character, she quickly runs to apologize to him, and the youngest brother both angry and confused about why she thinks so highly of the main character. It's half in part because he's just nice and a good dude, but also because he has a skill that makes anyone who affected under the I love you thing like him more, so that, or see him as a maternal figure. So she sees him as a parental figure, and because her parents died, she doesn't see the whole thing. My guy, what do you want from me? There's so much to go through here. How do recap people do this? I'm gonna have a stroke. And at this point, I hope you'll let me talk to you just a little bit more. The thing that makes this story beautiful and extremely special is the three mechanics that we just talked about. The main character feels no fear. We come to find out that S ranks are pure fear. They are basically gods walking amongst us. It's like a baby having a lion hover over them, that intense fear or terror that you feel from seeing something that could easily rip you to shreds. But because the main character has that fear resistance, he fears none of that. So he's able to be a nurturing, kind, and loving person towards them. Along with that, because of his skills and his character, he's able to foster the strength within them, taking a rank person and making them an S rank. And it never gets old. I love to bits battle anime where you're zero to hero, you're becoming stronger, all of this. But this anime does something that I wish others would do, and I would have never thought I would have wanted it. But it's the idea of seeing someone who fosters other people's strength. The main character can't really defend himself in any real way, only if somebody he cares for or under his influence dies, which you don't want to happen. You don't want him to get stronger for that way, but you fall in love with seeing how this character maximizes these people. Along with having his youngest brother being the head of a guild, it essentially allows you to see three different perspectives of evolving a person. For instance, the Ice Witch we just talked about, she has to go through like public training, and her old self looked dark and gloomy, but because now she has a support system and didn't have her terrible uncle who basically manipulated the hell out of her and took advantage of her power, she now is a bright person and not such a cold and dark, emotionally dead-end person. So you see how all of these characters from the past that are strong and notoriously godly become just better having experienced and being around such a wonderful and supportive person that the main character is. This maternal figure that shows what you'll become without someone who truly cares versus what you will become if you have someone that cares for you, that nurtures your potential and makes you great. It's a wonderful story. And the main character settles in perfectly with being this background character, not needing the limelight. He is, to me, one of the most pure and authentic, but not perfect main characters. If you've learned about the things he had to do to awaken, it's terrible, but that's also what makes him so great. Anyways, let's get back to some of the story. After this whole thing settles with the Ice Witch, where she starts training and she starts getting media training and she starts loving on the main character even more because she starts being more maternal to her, all these things, we see a brand new arc kind of come into being. The main character, after watching the Ice Princess talk to the press, after walking through the street, he thinks to himself, I need to find more S ranks. Dungeons in the future got harder and harder, and S ranks just basically weren't able to cut it. So he thinks, okay, I need to start using my abilities to their utmost, making stronger and stronger people. As he's scanning the streets and looking around, he ends up finding an absolute diamond in the rust. A long-haired man wearing a backpack on his chest, looking gloomy as hell. Now, yeah, the man is an F rank, but he possesses an SS rank skill called Master of the Golden Smithy. The main character lights up like a Christmas tree with having found such a 1 in a billion skill. You see, in the future, this is the linchpin of the hunter's struggle. Not having sufficient gear and no one having a skill to make better gear. Not making gear that transcends your S rank level. Everything's kind of hard pressed around A rank. So the main character sees this and thinks, oh my god, this could be our key to the future and actually stabilizing the dungeons, giving us a fair fight because, like I said, they get harder and harder. We find out why later on, but let's not get into that just yet. Back to the depressed boy with the backpack on his chest, looking at this thin and hopeless F ranker as an endless pit of money and wealth. The main character telling this very, very depressed man that he'll support him, that he thinks he has the potential of all the world. He then listens to the gloomy man and finds out that he was absolutely thrown away. The man loved building with all his heart, but because everyone said that there was no money in building, he ended up trying to go more and more into school, but because he had no love for it and no talent for it, he ended up failing over and over again. Ended up dropping out of school and talking about how bad his debt is because he failed so bad at school. Now feels like an absolute waste of space. The main character also knows the absolute plight of being an F ranker. Everyone looks down on you and you feel like you are the absolute epitome of waste of space. We find out a little bit later down the line that this poor man was actually thinking about committing suicide, which makes this moment of the main character being an absolute light in his life, believing in him, telling him that he'll support him all the more special. The main character proceeds to tell him that he loves him and that he wants to be his friend. Normally, this would be extremely strange for anyone else, but in a person in this state, the depressed man looks at him like he's his savior. The main character then brings him to his brother's guild, only to be absolutely rejected, with one of the people that run the guild telling him that no, he's not good enough, we can't do this, we can't bring on every stray on the road that you care about, no. This absolutely taking the wind out of the depressed guy also. And again, I can't stress how funny and goofy and playful this manhwa is. Nevertheless, the main character and him end up going on the street. The main character ends up apologizing, saying he'll figure something out, but quickly a van approaches them and opens up, filled to the brim with a bunch of unsavory characters. The depressed man looking longingly at the main character saying, "Thank you so much for all you've done," but he has to contact him after he's made some money. The main character, bewildered, thinks, "No, you're not going into that van with these creeps." The character says, I'll come with you. And the most awkward car ride ensues. At this point, I gotta mention that this is just the main character. He's like charismatic, super out there, will jump in front of a bullet without even thinking, maybe because of his resistance to fear. But it never gets old of him just being like, "Nah, I got this," and just jumps into the lion's den. And, well, yeah, while riding in this van with a group of thugs surrounding the main character, he plays as if he's completely unfazed because he has the fear resistance. He feels nothing. Making jokes and being playful, the thugs then offer him money as well. The main character then extrapolates on one of the toxic aspects about the future, which essentially is where these horrible thugs trick people into horrible contracts in which they work for them permanently. It's like slavery, it's horrible, not good. As they get to their destination, the main character basically is pushed into making a deal with these horrible people, only to then show that the main character was actually riding with his phone dialed to his bodyguard the entire time. Moments later, him punching through the door. But before then, the main character was able to verify the fact that these people are doing extremely criminal things, and the main character is utterly vindicated on beating their heads in. So his bodyguard and him proceed to do just that. The main character actually tears a contract right in front of him, and the reason why he can do that is because contracts have a cursed effect that keeps the contract valid. So the main character has legendary resistance against curses, so he can do whatever he wants against curses, i.e. break any contract. So he ends up doing that for his friend. And another thing that you should take note of a simple skill that you wouldn't really think being that good, being so good. So good. Also, this entire scene just shows how absolutely big-brained the main character is. He doesn't have overwhelming strength, but he is absurdly clever. We end up finding out some things on his backstory with being so downtrodden and not having his brother and not having any utility skills. He had to get really clever. And we see that time and time again within the story. After dealing with the thugs and ripping up the contract that the depressed man was in, said depressed man looks at the main character with awe. Not only for his incredible performance, but also the fact that he didn't leave him. He went into the lion's den with him and pulled him out. The depressed man embraces the main character with glee, and the main character proceeds to sleep outside Guildmaster's room until he agrees to work with him in some way, allowing this F rank to move in with him at the very least. Needless to say, the youngest brother isn't thrilled about this because he can't really keep watch of his weak older brother because he had moved out with this new F rank smithy guy. And yeah, now the main character quickly finds out that there is a requirement to unlock such a S rank skill, this SS rank golden smithy skill that this depressed man possesses. Well, no longer depressed man possesses. He has a friend, he's good. Essentially, the man needs to sharpen, I think it's 10,000 knives. And quick pause, man, oh my god, this relationship is the most wholesome. This arc is my favorite amongst the entire series. Essentially, it is just seeing this person who has been absolutely thrown away, which the main character completely knows what it's like to feel that, given the situation that happened with his brother and whatnot. But the fact that this main character brings this person on the absolute edge and says, "I believe in you, you'll be great one day, it's okay, you don't need to worry about this thing, I believe in you, I believe in you, I believe in you," and every conceivable, letting him stay with him, constantly building him up, it's just beautiful, man, and it's so awesome to see. And ultimately, this ends with not only there being some trials and tribulations of this person, that depressed man, deeply wanting to pay this person back for believing in him, and also wondering why do you believe in me so much? I'm nothing. And ultimately for the main character to be like, "Nah, man, you got this 100%. I'm gonna keep betting on you, always and forever." And then, for the I'm just to give you guys a tease, if you guys ever want a part 2 of this, dude, this feeble but so kind and so supportive and so gentle becomes the goddamn owner of an absolute giga crazy smithy and ends up making S rank weapons, which are just on a whole new level. One of the things that's best about this series is it does handle power really well. For instance, spoiler, he ends up making a spear for an S rank that is an S rank weapon that can basically level a mountain. It is So good. So good. And you gotta know how cool it is when this dude is behind the main character like, that's my boy. That is my boy. And the main character basically being that meme where it's just like, I raised that boy. The whole series. And also this kind of talks about the morally interesting thing that the main character is. The whole time he's not shy about saying, I want to use this person. This person has a very, very strong skill that I could use and that could help and benefit the world. But the way that ends up coming out is him actually supporting him in every conceivable way. Yes, there's an end goal that he's interested in, attaining power and giving the whole world this utility. And a smithy that can make S-rank weapons, that's amazing. But the main character still is the person supporting the ever-living hell out of this guy, building up his confidence, constantly validating him, constantly giving him things to do and nudging him in the direction that he needs to go, never ever forcing him to do anything, just suggesting. And ultimately the way that this guy handles feeling a little bit insufficient, the roommate ends up becoming like the best guy ever, making him food, becoming a master at that. Believing in the main character when he tells him to get back to his roots of loving to build things, and it's just so wholesome, man. And it ends in such a beautiful way of the main character having just like invested and nurtured this person, and boom, when it finally blossoms, you're like, let's go. All right, I got one more chunk to talk to you about, but if you guys do want more of this, like the video around maybe 500 likes, if not less, we'll see. I might just do this just because I want to, because I really like the story, and I want to get better at telling you guys stories. But yeah, 500 likes for sure, and then we'll do it relatively fast. I'll try to be quick about it. These do take a little bit of time, because it's a lot of like trying to see what is needed and what is not. Anyways, on to the next chunk. Love you, and continue. Along our story, our main character ends up befriending so many others. The A-rank bodyguard is actually one of the first characters that he makes into an S-rank, proving that you can evolve past your limit. But before then, his brother actually does a dungeon raid and brings back a small baby fire creature, with the youngest brother being completely incapable of taming him. The main character quickly finds out that he can actually tame said character, and how good this could be. He can't always have the ice witch protect him, but he could have this beast protect him, as well as make his brother even stronger. With the fact that it has such high fire resistance, it plays perfectly into his youngest brother's skill kit. And this is one of the main threads of the story. You see, the main character convinces his brother that his skill that he awakened to is the Tamer class, the first of its kind. The ability to take a beast and increase its level and bring it to maturity, functionally nerfing the hell out of his Nurturer skill, which allows him to do that to anybody. Nevertheless, this makes his brother hella nervous, because the youngest brother knows all of the guilds are going to want the main character now. Sure, he doesn't have overwhelming power, but he has something far better, an amazing investment. You're telling me that there's a person that can take beasts from the dungeon, baby beasts, and build them all the way up, scaling up their class even, to make a B rank and S rank? Do you know how valuable an S rank beast is? Every single S rank wants one, and you're telling me that you can make it an S rank on top of that. Needless to say, his very paranoid little brother is terrified. The main character reassures his brother, and over the course of many chapters, we basically come to find out that the main character is going to act as a separate entity to his little brother's guild, essentially offering everyone the possibility of raising these beasts, acting as kind of a marketplace for, give me an egg, I'll raise the beast, you're going to give me money, I'll give you the egg. Reason why? So the main character knows that he's going to need a crazy amount of funds in the future, and as many guilds as powerful as he possibly can for the ever-increasing powerhouses that the dungeons become. With this all kind of culminating with one amazing scene, and this is what I'll leave you on. The main character enters into a conference room filled to the absolute brim with S ranks, guild masters, and just overall powerhouses. As he makes his way into the room, he's holding the baby fire beast that his brother gave him. The beast quickly leaps out of his arms and starts growling, the main character getting him under control, showing everyone that he in fact can tame or at least balance out the beast. Very soon, a charming woman opens up a chair and asks him to sit down, and she is extraordinarily tall and just overall big. Think a more steroided up Wonder Woman, I suppose. All the S ranks start chiming in, pointing out the absolute value and subsequent trouble that one of the guildmasters, his youngest brother, happening to have such a high commodity, a beast tamer. All of them start jumping in and arguing about how the hell they're gonna deal with this. How is it fair that his little brother's guild gets him? And despite S ranks arguing to no end, getting heated and angry, the main character pints up and tells them all to calm down. He brought them all here today to explain to them how they're gonna handle this, and everyone settles down. And some people start to take note, how did this F rank just stand up to an S rank? As well as the badass Wonder Woman girl putting the moves on our boy, and the cat having none of it, always having none of it, and his brother getting ever more protective. This sparks up the S rankers to be more casual, laughing at how his little brother is around his oldest brother. essentially pointing out that his little brother is extraordinarily ruthless and cold, having a murderous intent surround him at all times. But around his oldest brother, he becomes a soft puppy. The eldest brother thinking, nah, not my boy. My boy's not like that. At this point, we met various big players, Jupiter being one of the most important ones. He's supposedly the strongest in all of Korea. And we're also made to understand that all the other S ranks are extraordinarily strong as well, but also just how much bureaucracy exists within the guilds. Some guilds are supported by financial big business, other guilds are supported by pure force of will and ability to perform, and other guilds are just hoisted up by having one single powerhouse, like Jupiter, kick some massive ass. The main character then pitches to them his exact plan. Invest in a gigantic stadium, which all of the guilds will participate in funding, and I'll open up a business marketplace where you'll give me an egg, I'll raise your beast, and then I'll sell it for a decent sum. All of the guild masters like this idea, essentially being a free market, and as long as you have enough funds, then therefore you can buy the said beast. And at this point, a lot of the S rankers are befuddled but charmed. This is an F rank that, yes, happens to be the brother of an S rank, but why is he so calm? And furthermore, why is he so jovial, happy, and ultimately unaffected by the fact that we are who we are? Even outside of power, we're still intimidating, we're still leaders, but ultimately he acts as if we're his family. And therein lies why the main character has the nurturer traits. They're all bewildered by the fact that he's so calm. Everyone that's ever existed around an S rank is terrified because of their sheer power, but the main character with his fear resistance and his nurture ability feels none of that. So you have this weird soup of the main character basically being completely okay with these absolute power-hungry, supercharged, powerful as hell lions. And all he is a measly F rank. No good skills, they could literally swat him and he'd die. But no one wants that because of not only his nurturer skill, the fact that people end up liking him that are under his effect, but also of just how absolutely lonely it is to be an S rank. Everyone judges you, everyone is envious, and everyone is terrified of you. Even people closest to you, your parents, the ones that love you, deep down have this innate human fear, like a tiny child looking into a lion's eyes. But the main character doesn't have any of that. The main character is fearless because of the skill. And he's also just a really, really kind and nurturing person. And he has the skill to back that up. This to me is the endless beauty of what makes the show so great. You're always excited to see the new character that he's gonna go level up, be there for, nurture, be a rock in an ever-storming sea for these people that need it. You're excited to see how different they become with having the support network that they are from the past, that they are to the current. It's so exciting and interesting. And not only that, but seeing how all of these characters deeply, deeply need, even the strongest S ranks amongst them that seem bulletproof, still long for someone to look at them and not be afraid. Someone to care for them, someone to nurture them, someone to see them as needing help too. And after recounting like even 1/10 of the story at this point, because there's a lot of chapters for this, there is so many brilliant arcs, like they're completely different relative to each other. It's so interesting. The Smithy arc, the brother arc, the new animal raising arc. There's so many there that are intricate fun. There's also this larger than life story where the main character is tasked with an incomparable goal. There's the story with the big heads of all of the guilds and all of them working together. Everything doesn't really play out how you'd expect, like the main character just wins. The main character like finds a way and the world kind of settles in with this new happening, which is him. It's just awesome. And I wish I could talk to you about this story forever, man, because it is just that good. And near the beginning of this video, I mentioned something that to me, I think calcifies this show as being so good. It's reflection of how brilliant it is. The brilliance of this story to me will always be how a mouse raised lions.